Today, we're diving into a beautiful old tale called The Sparrow's Bell. It's a story that really gets you thinking about how the most jarring, difficult endings in our lives can sometimes, somehow, be the start of something amazing. So, we're going to explore this really simple but powerful idea. And it all starts with this one question. What if the things we lose, the things that feel like they're just gone, what if they're actually just making way for something better? All right, so let's set the scene. Our story begins in this place of just deep quiet. Picture an ancient temple, moss growing on the walls, the courtyard totally silent. And right at the heart of it all hangs this huge bronze bell. It's covered in dust, and it hasn't been rung in ages. It's like a symbol of something forgotten. But where people just saw an old, useless bell, a tiny sparrow saw something completely different. For her, the hollow inside this giant thing, it was the perfect place for a home. I mean, it had everything she needed. It was cool when it was hot, it kept her out of the rain, and most importantly, it felt safe. So she gets to work, building her nest one twig at a time, lining it with the softest feathers she can find, and as she settles in, this one thought just brings her so much comfort, a feeling of total, absolute security. In her little mind, she had found a fortress. So day in and day out, her life was peaceful, it was predictable. She'd sing in the morning, rest in the afternoon. The silence of that bell was the very foundation of her world, and she became totally convinced that this stability, this perfect safety, was gonna last forever. But, well, you know how life is. It has a funny way of changing things up right when we get comfortable. And one morning, the silence of that old courtyard was finally broken. Out of absolutely nowhere, the monks from the temple decided it was time to ring the bell, and for our little sparrow, sitting there peacefully in her nest, her entire world just exploded in one single deafening crash. It was just complete chaos. The vibration was so violent, it shook her tiny nest completely to pieces, and just like that, in an instant, the home she'd so carefully built just disintegrated. Everything she believed was safe, everything she thought was permanent, was gone. As she flew out in pure terror, her heart was just screaming these questions. And it's a pain we all know, isn't it? That feeling that life has just been so unfair, so cruel, taking away the one thing that made us feel secure. So what came next was this period of just aimless despair. She flew and flew, but her wings felt so heavy. She wandered through valleys, rested on lonely branches, but nothing felt right. She was lost. She was exhausted, and honestly, she was on the verge of just giving up completely. And right here, this is the turning point of the whole story. Just when it felt like all was lost, this tiny, quiet voice deep inside her just whispered for her to keep going. It was this little flicker of hope that pushed her to keep moving, to believe that maybe, just maybe, something else was out there. And you know what? That little bit of persistence paid off. She started following the faint sound of a stream, and she stumbled upon a place she never even knew existed. A hidden glade, a true sanctuary tucked away deep in the forest. Now, this is what's so fascinating, the contrast between her two homes. Think about it. The old bell was safe, sure, but it was also hollow and dusty. It was silent, static, and in the end, pretty confining. This new glade was the total opposite, fresh, filled with the sounds of birds and running water, open and free. It wasn't just a home, it was a paradise. So she started to build again, but this time with stronger sticks, with more patience. And as she sat there in her new, sturdier nest, surrounded by birdsong and the smell of berries, this incredible realization just washed over her. This new life, it was infinitely better. It was in that moment that she finally got it. That terrifying event, the one that destroyed her home, was the very thing that set her free. If that bell had never rung, she would have just stayed in that small, limited world forever, never knowing this beautiful garden even existed. Okay, so let's bring this home to our own lives. We all do this, right? We build our own little nests. We find comfort in a certain job, a home, a relationship, and we wrap ourselves up in that feeling of security, convinced it's never going to change. And then, one day, our bell rings. It could be a layoff, a breakup, a health scare, some sudden, painful event that just shatters our world. And of course, it feels like a disaster. But what the Sparrow's story shows us is that sometimes that disaster is actually a catalyst. It's the thing that forces us out of our comfort zone and onto a whole new path of growth. And this, right here, is the heart of the whole lesson. What feels like a devastating final end is so often just a transition. It's life pushing us to fly a little higher, even when we don't feel ready. It's not the end of the story. It's just the end of one chapter. The story just captures this paradox so perfectly. The bell that destroyed her nest was the very same one that set her free. It's wild, isn't it? The same event holds both the pain of loss and the promise of freedom, all at once. So what's the takeaway here? When your world is shaking, when your bell is ringing loud and clear, the lesson is to do what the sparrow did. Yeah, grieve the loss, of course, but don't stop flying. Keep your spirit strong, keep putting one foot or wing in front of the other, and keep on building. Because the truth is, you never, ever know if the place you're being pushed toward is a paradise you couldn't have even imagined. So I'm going to leave you with a question to mull over. What is your bell trying to tell you?